What's happening, everybody? Boy Big Brando, and today let's talk about embroidery. Now, most of you guys already know this, but I've made a bunch of videos about embroidery. You guys know personally that I don't do embroidery myself. Whenever I get my hats embroidered, I outsource them. I've also made videos about outsourcing to a local embroidery shop, the importance of checking your proof samples versus ordering online and then taking the risk of getting some crappy hats back because you weren't able to check the proof sample or you bought off a proof based on a picture. There's a lot of risk involved with that. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I press shirts out of home. I press shirts out of my house. I press shirts out of these small workspaces. I press shirts out of a workspace like this. So there's always been two things that kind of threw me off when it came to investing in an embroidery machine. One of them was being space. I never had the space for it, right? Whether it was a single head or 6 head, 8 head, 10 head, whatever I was looking into, space was always a factor. When we're leasing this bigger warehouse space and actually had a shop to work out of, we were thinking about leasing a bigger embroidery machine. Then it came down to production, right? So if I got a single head, which would fit in certain spaces, what would production be like? How long would it take me to make one hat? Would the actual work and time put into creating a job on this single head embroidery machine be worth it for myself? And the second reason is always price. You guys know that I hate operating in debt. You guys know I try not to make anybody else go into debt. I don't like to be in debt personally myself. So price has always been a factor. For years, embroidery machines have always been $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, $60,000, depending on the size and all that stuff. So those numbers scare a lot of people away, like myself. So this is one of the big reasons why I never really got into it. And I always just said, screw it, I'm just gonna outsource all my embroidery work. And it's been beneficial and profitable for myself to operate that way. Hit up my local embroidery guy, drop off all my hats, 120, 200 hats, whatever it is, send them the file, check the proof sample, pick my hats up in a week. But getting into embroidery is something that I've always looked into and thought about. I know there can be some benefits to it. I know there's a huge learning curve because I don't know nothing about nothing when it comes to embroidery. So I've been doing a ton of research on different machines. I was hoping to go to ISS this year. Obviously it didn't happen in Long Beach this year, but usually this is where I try to get the bulk of the information around anything I want to get into. So I wanted to go to ISS and talk to all these embroidery shops. I've done it for the last 4 years, is stop by and talk to different embroidery vendors just to see what they're talking about, what the prices look like, footprint of the machine, how much space is it going to take up, what the learning curve is like, how hard would it be for me to do some hats, how to do 3D puff stuff, how to embroider on hoodies. I ask the bare basics when it comes to that kind of stuff. And a lot of times there's certain proprietary things that I need to know about, like digitizing software. Can I only use certain needles with certain machines? Can I only use certain thread with certain machines? All of that stuff. And then also thinking about pros and cons of actually having an embroidery machine in my possession. How would I use it to make money? Is the time creating whatever job I'm doing going to be worth it? Or is it more beneficial, more profitable for me to just outsource it and kind of middleman the job? Because like I said, I have access to a huge embroidery machine. The guy that does my embroidery can turn stuff around less than a week. So does it actually make sense for me to own an embroidery machine or just keep outsourcing it? These are things that I'm thinking about. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people out there thinking about it too. You guys are seeing a lot of content around embroidery machines right now. The homie Rye Beats is walking everybody through his embroidery journey. You got people like Heart and Hustle doing the same exact thing, showing you guys what it takes to operate a single head machine, showing you guys how they're getting jobs in, how they're knocking these jobs out. Because I watch those videos too and I'm like, oh shit, you know what? I could think of a lot of different ways to use these machines to make money, but I also can think about what's the benefits of actually having the machine in my possession, doing lower quantity runs, potentially doing patches, embroidery on hoodies and stuff like that. To me, it's like embroidery is one of those things that you can't really replicate. There's no other options when it comes to that. It's just embroidery or not embroidery. And you could kind of use patches as like a filler, you know what I mean? You could use like applique type stuff that's like on the tackle twill, stitch around that, but a sewing machine is still required. You could get embroidered patches made and outsourced, and you could get like 200, 500 patches and then kind of heat press them onto stuff, or you could sew around it. But there's no real way of achieving the embroidery look and feel without doing actual embroidery. 3D puff on a hat, stuff like that is usually what I would use it for. So this is my current dilemma right now is looking for a machine, trying to justify if I could actually make money with this machine, and is it worth the investment for myself to get into it? Because like I said in all my other videos, I would hate to start out in debt. I would hate to finance a machine that I knew I couldn't make no money off of, and I would hate to dig myself into some sort of hole. But as you guys know, there's only one way to embroider stuff, and that's with an embroidery machine. When it comes to t-shirts, leasing like a DTG machine and stuff like that, you could always get transfers made and then bang them out onto t-shirts. I know there's a convenience of being able to print whatever's on your computer onto the t-shirt. It comes with a hefty price tag. So there's other options on what you could do to create multicolored t-shirts outside of dropping a shitload of money on a DTG machine. So when it comes to embroidery, it's in a whole different space all on its own. There's no other way of achieving an embroidery effect without an actual embroidery machine. And I know they come in all different sizes, right? You can get the little small brother machines where you can make patches and all this kind of stuff, and then maybe do like a 5x7 job on. And then they have the other bigger machines that are like a single head machine where you could get bigger loops and do bigger areas like on hoodies and jackets. Then you could get the hat loops where you could do different parts of the hat, and then you could get bigger and bigger and bigger heads, more needles, all that kind of stuff. So if you're in the same position that I'm in currently, this is my current dilemma, is creating some kind of pros and cons list for myself on what the actual needs are when it comes to embroidery. How can I make money using this embroidery machine? How hard would it be to learn? How much space is it going to take in my work area? What the consumables cost? That part I'm not 100% sure on, because I don't know what thread costs. I don't know what needles cost. I don't know if you have to change out needles. Like, do they get dull after a while? Or are you going to be breaking needles on certain things? There's a bunch of stuff that I need to do research on. So this is something that I'm looking into also. But if you're in this current situation, there's no real way to replicate embroidery without an embroidery machine. I know you guys hear me talk about all the time, don't lease a machine and don't do this, don't lease equipment, don't start out in the hole. But when it comes to embroidery, you kind of have to. Unless you could catch one for like really dumb cheap on OfferUp or Craigslist or whatever it is. But when I have to invest into some sort of equipment like this, I have to do a shitload of research. I'm watching YouTube videos. I'm watching guys like Ride Beats and Heart and Hustle. Currently, they have two different machines. They're doing two different things. Statement of work is a lot different, but they have work coming in where they're knocking out hats, they're knocking out patches, they're knocking out all kind of stuff. Showing the ins and outs is something cool for myself. I like watching that stuff. I try to stay away from some of these companies' YouTube videos because it always comes off as a sales pitch. So if you're in the market for an embroidery machine, you could get information from there, but it always comes off like a sales pitch. I always like people that are like myself operating these machines because I have a better idea on how it's being used. I have some source of information in case I need to troubleshoot a certain issue. I know what to look out for. I have a better idea on what to expect. So that's my embroidery life update right now, is me thinking about getting into it. I'm not 100% if I'm going to get into it, but I'm just thinking about getting into embroidery. I need to find out how I can make money, if it's going to be beneficial for myself to even own the machine and take possession of that machine when payments are still due and stuff like that. And I also got to figure out what the money looks like, how much these machines cost, what the payments are like. Is there any kind of training involved? Is the company pretty good with customer service if I need to hit them up because I can't get something to work? These are the things that I'm looking for out of these machines. Printing, have it under control. I can use transfers all day long with no issues. I've been doing it for years, no issues. All my embroidery stuff I've been outsourcing, which is cool. If I had the ability to do it myself, how cool would that be? You know what I mean? So stay tuned for more embroidery update videos on what I'm looking at, machines I'm thinking about getting, research that I'm doing, videos that I'm watching. I guess I could share a bunch of that stuff with you guys. This video probably wasn't packed with a lot of information. It was just kind of a life update on myself thinking about getting into embroidery. And this is just the thought at the moment. There's nothing concrete about me getting into a machine. Shit, who knows, man? Maybe next week I might say, you know what? It's probably not going to be worth it for myself to get into this. You know what I mean? This is just something that I'm looking into and thinking about getting into. And it's crazy because there's a lot of content around embroidery right now, but also there's a ton of questions in my videos asking about embroidery. So the need for the information is there. If I could learn with you guys and we could all learn together, that'll be dope. And if we could figure out different ways of making money around embroidery. Because right now I just get hats embroidered. And what if hats, people stop wearing hats, or maybe it's not going to be a popular thing no more, and then embroidery on, I don't know, t-shirts or on hoodies, or embroidery somewhere else is going to be something popular? What if like embroidery on backpacks is a bigger money maker than hats are? You know what I mean? It could be a lot of different possibilities. So we'll see what happens. If you're thinking about getting into embroidery, let me know. Let me know what machines you're thinking about getting. Let me know what you looked into. Let me know some of your pros and cons in the comments. I'll read all of them because, like I said, right now I'm just trying to gather as much information as possible for myself. All right? Follow me on Instagram, where I'm a lot more active now. Hopefully you guys are happy with that. See how long I can keep it up. Catch you guys on the next one, man. Yeah.